Hello everyone, thanks for joining in and don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. We've got an important story today. Let's unpack what's going on and talk about why this matters for Nigeria right now. So, here's the situation. On the 20th of October 2025, major protests broke out in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, and other places. These protests were in support of Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the proscribed group Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, who has been detained and faces terrorism and treason charges. Kanu has apparently sent out a message of appreciation to the protesters, those who came out on October 20, to demand either his release or justice in his case. He's basically saying, "Thank you for standing up." That is significant because it shows that his support base is active and vocal. What makes this even more interesting is the backdrop. The government has labeled IPOB a terrorist organization, and Kanu's trial has been dragging and is highly contested. The southeastern region of Nigeria, where many of Kanu's supporters are, has long-standing grievances about marginalization, especially among the Igbo people. Those tensions feed into this moment. Now, the protest itself on October 20. Authorities used tear gas, water cannons, and electric barriers. There were reports of arrests of dozens of protesters, even arrests of journalists. The fact that the protest happened at all, and at scale, is a message. People feel strongly enough to come out in large numbers, despite the risks. Here's how we can think about the story and what it means. Support base and mobilization. Kanu's appreciation underscores that he still has a mobilized base. When a detained or politically contested figure says, "Thank you," it means they recognize the support network is alive and active. Political message. The protests signal to the Nigerian government that there's unrest, there's dissatisfaction. It may push for a response or negotiation of sorts. Security implications. With protests and heavy security response, the risk of escalation is real. If protest meets force, things can get heated, and that can affect public space, movement, economy, everyday life in Abuja or affected regions. Wider societal context. This isn't just about one person. It taps into ethnic, regional, historical issues. Southern Nigeria, Igbo-speaking region, the legacy of the 1967 to 1970 civil war. Feelings of exclusion. The Kanu, IPOB story stands in for many of these issues. Let me pull a few details for you. The police used tear gas and blocked major roads in Abuja. Some witnesses even heard gunshots as clashes erupted between protesters and security forces. The disruption affected commuters and traffic flow. Why now? The timing matters. Kanu's case has been through a lot of legal twists, rearrests, trials, alleged rendition from Kenya in 2021, etc. As these things drag on, frustration builds. The collective action on October 20 is part of that build-up. Let's imagine you're living in Nigeria and you see this story. You might ask, is it safe to protest? What will the government do? What does this mean for my region, for my daily life? So the story is not remote, it has real consequences. Traffic blocked, fears of more security deployment, potential for escalation. Now, I want you to pause for a second and think. What do you believe the goal of these protests is? Is it just release Kanu, or is it more, show we are not ignored? Talk about the underlying grievances. If you were there, what would draw you out? Comment below, and while you're at it, make sure you like this video and subscribe if you're new here. Another angle, what will the government do next? They can choose to engage, ignore, crack down harder. Each option has risk. Engagement could lead to negotiations or reform. Ignoring could cause further protests. A heavier crackdown could escalate violence. So, the appreciation message from Kanu is part of the narrative. It could galvanize further action. Let's also talk about the risk of division. Protests like this can stir up regional tensions. If you live outside the southeast, you might view this differently as national security, as secession threat. If you live in the southeast, you might view it as justice long overdue. Bridging that perception gap is tough. And what about the media and public awareness? Journalists were arrested, equipment destroyed. That raises questions about freedom of the press, transparency of what's happening during the protests, and what information the public actually gets. So, here's what to watch in the coming days. Will there be follow-up protests? Will October 20 become a sustained movement or a one-off? Will the government respond either by dialogue or by law enforcement? Will Kanu's case progress in court in a way that changes the dynamic? Will there be wider regional or national repercussions, maybe protests in other cities or solidarity movements? Will this shift how Nigerians view secessionist movements, regional marginalization, or just governance in general? For all of us watching, if you're a citizen, what's your role? Staying informed, peaceful, understanding the deeper issues beyond the headline, release this man, or support that protest. For neighbors, it's good to ask, how does this affect me? For youth especially, activism, rights, consequences. Alright friends, that wraps up the core of the story. Kanu's appreciation message, the October 20 protests, the security response, the broader context of the Southeast, secession, justice, and governance. Don't forget, like this video if you found it useful, subscribe to stay updated, and drop your comments below. What do you think will happen next? If you'd like, I can dig into how this fits into the history of secessionist movements in Nigeria or into the specific demands of the protesters. Just say the word.